This is Northern Light for Tuesday, July 20th. Good morning. I'm Catherine Wheeler. More than 20 people were detained in a series of immigration raids around Lake Placid last month. One man who was detained and later released is now sharing his story.
He says they chained the men's waists and legs, which he says made them feel like criminals. He says the officers were celebrating the fact that they had arrested so many people.
Also on the show, the 27th annual Ironman was held in Lake Placid on Sunday as wildfire smoke cleared just in time for the race.
It's been going since 1999, and this one is firming up to be another absolute classic.
And there's lots to see in our night skies. Astronomer Aileen O'Donoghue is here to guide us through it all. All that's coming up on Northern Light. Stick with us. Northern Light is supported by the Adirondack Land Trust, hosting a public celebration of land conservation on July 30th at the Stony Creek Park and Pavilion in Stony Creek. Event details at adirondacklandtrust.org. And by Seagull Festival in Scroon Lake, presenting Mozart's opera Cosa fan tutte, July 22nd to 25th. More at seagullfestival.org. This is Northern Light. I'm Catherine Wheeler. Since the Trump administration began its immigration crackdown, ICE agents have conducted several raids across the North Country. They've arrested workers at lumber mills, dairy farms, and most recently, over 20 day laborers and restaurant workers in Lake Placid. One local immigration advocates say many of these detainees were ultimately deported. One man who was detained and later released told his story to David Escobar.
On May 28th at 7:25 in the morning, a maintenance worker from Venezuela was walking to his truck outside the Grandview Resort in Lake Placid. We're not identifying him because he fears speaking publicly could jeopardize his political asylum case.
Voy caminando hacia mi camioneta y veo otra camioneta diferente a las que se parquean ahí.
He says he noticed a truck he'd never seen before. It felt out of place.
Y me pareció muy raro, me asusté. Pero dije, no creo.
He was scared, but he told himself it couldn't be ICE. As he stepped out of his truck, he says two men emerged from behind the unmarked vehicle, stopped him, and told him to raise his hands. He says his work authorization documents were inside his car.
Yo le comienzo a decir, mi cartera está dentro de la camioneta, ¿la puedes revisar?
He says he told the agents his immigration paperwork was inside his truck, but they wouldn't let him get it.
Pero no, you are under arrest. Pusieron las esposas.
Instead, they handcuffed him and told him he was under arrest. After his arrest, the worker says he watched ICE agents round up over a dozen more men, throwing some detainees to the ground. He says he heard men scream for help from inside the vans.
Nos encadenaron alrededor de la barriga, las piernas como si fuésemos unos criminales.
He says they chained the men's waists and legs, which he says made them feel like criminals. He says the officers were celebrating the fact that they had arrested so many people.
De hecho, hasta celebraban como que hicieron su cometido, por decirlo así.
We asked ICE twice about this incident, but they didn't respond. After processing at a local jail, the detainees were taken to the Batavia Detention Center near Buffalo. The worker says the trip took about 12 hours, and he was given only a bottle of water. For 3 days, he wasn't allowed to contact his family. He says he kept wondering whether his wife and children even knew where he was.
Mi esposa creo que cuando se enteró del movimiento en Lake Placid lloró, se tiró al piso porque no.
He says his wife cried and collapsed when she learned about the arrests in Lake Placid. Their family knew this could happen, he says, but never thought it would happen to them.
¿Qué va a pasar conmigo?
This Venezuelan man's experience isn't unique. Keela Grimet, who leads the group North Country Immigrant Allies, says they've heard similar accounts from immigrants detained across the region.
The reality is that people are being surveilled, that they are being tracked, that in some situations we're finding out that they've been told by ICE that they were followed for multiple days across multiple towns until they got to a location where ICE could detain them with very little awareness from the community.
Grimet says the agency's tactics have created a climate of fear, especially among Latino immigrants who she says are more likely to be profiled. Grimet says many of the people she's seen detained in Lake Placid have pending asylum cases and no criminal history at all, far different from the Trump administration's repeated claims that ICE is targeting the worst of the worst. That includes this maintenance worker. He says he's never missed an immigration check-in since moving to Lake Placid 2.5 years ago, making it difficult to understand why he was detained.
No tengo ni siquiera multas de tránsito, ni siquiera en mi país ni acá hay.
He tells me he doesn't even have a traffic ticket. He says when you know you're doing the right thing and working hard for your family and yourself, you're never prepared for something like this to happen to you.
Piensas en que estás haciendo mal.
Rather than accept voluntary deportation, he fought his case. After 2 weeks in detention, ICE released him on bail, but he now wears an ankle monitor.
Yo les pregunté que si eso me lo podían cambiar porque esto me...
He says he asked for an alternative but was denied. He says the ankle monitor is uncomfortable, especially because he works outside on his feet all day. Still, the worker tells me he thanks God for getting him out of detention and back to his family. The arrests have also changed life in Lake Placid beyond those who were detained. Father John Yankovic, a retired priest at St. Agnes Catholic Church, says many immigrant parishioners now keep an even lower profile.
For the last year, they have gone underground, I guess you might say, or certainly have embraced a low profile. I think being out only when it's essential work and that type of thing.
He says that fear has only grown, especially as reports of violent encounters involving ICE have reached smaller communities, including the recent shooting of an immigrant by federal agents in Biddeford, Maine.
I also sense a deeper concern that some of the killings that have taken place by ICE, people wonder, could that happen in a quiet little community like Lake Placid?
About a month after his release, the worker says he's still looking over his shoulder. He says he won't even park in the lot where he was detained. Given his pending asylum case, I ask him why he's willing to tell his story.
No sabemos si para que hagan algo o para estar atentos.
He says some locals, even people who were born and raised here, don't understand what ICE is doing in their own community. Whether they choose to act or simply stay informed, he says it's important they understand what's happening.
Que me gustaría que sucediera.
And he says that's exactly why he chose not to stay silent. David Escobar, North Country Public Radio, Lake Placid.
David Escobar is a Report for America Corps member. He reports on diversity issues in the Adirondacks through a partnership between North Country Public Radio and the Adirondack Explorer. A legal defense fund tapped by New York Attorney General Letitia James is redirecting some of its donations. This comes after experts said the arrangement is an ethical quagmire. Jimmy Vielkind reports for the New York Public News Network.
James has received more than $700,000 toward her legal defense from the Democratic Attorneys General Association. The group says it's redirecting some of that money after Gothamist identified several donors. The state's Commission on Ethics and Lobbying in Government approved the arrangement in December because it believed donors to the defense fund would remain anonymous, but donors to the group are disclosed. Columbia Law School professor Richard Briffault says it raises possible conflicts.
They can just give it and with winks and nods and know where it's going. So it just seems a little naive, to be honest.
The Ethics Commission says it stands by its approval. In Albany, I'm Jimmy Vielkind for the New York Public News Network.
This is NCPR. You're listening to Northern Light only here on North Country Public Radio. It's about 10 after 8. Good morning. I'm Catherine Wheeler. Stick around. Astronomer Aileen O'Donoghue walks us through what to look for in our morning and evening skies. That's coming up in just a few minutes here on Northern Light. But first, music from Pencil Dive out of Saratoga Springs. Northern Light is supported by McFadden Deer Insurance in Canton, Potsdam, and Gouverneur, encouraging North Country residents to support local nonprofit organizations that provide services to those in need. McFaddenDeer.com. And by Thousand Islands Arts Center, Clayton, offering year-round programming for adults and children of all ages with classes in painting, weaving, pottery, and more. Details at tiartscenter.org. And by listeners like you. Last summer, something unprecedented happened. NCPR and public media stations all over the country lost federal funding entirely, and our community responded in an unprecedented way, stepping up in support of this service with enough donations to cover 2 years of our losses. Now, as we look ahead to the coming seasons, we still need your support at those unprecedented levels to maintain this service. Federal funding is not coming back, but NCPR isn't going away. Because of listeners like you, NCPR can remain strong, independent, and available to everyone across the North Country. Keep this service alive and local, and make a gift right now at ncpr.org/give. And thank you. Thousands of people competed in the Lake Placid Ironman on Sunday. The grueling race includes a 1-mile swim, a 100-mile bike ride, and ends with a full marathon. Emily Russell reports.
The Lake Placid Ironman starts on the shores of Mirror Lake. A little after sunrise on Sunday, thousands of athletes in wetsuits and swimming caps started gathering by the beach. By 6:15 a.m., the race was underway.
And they're off.
Finally, the gun goes off, and they're into the water and into the work.
This is from the official Ironman live stream on YouTube. For nearly 10 hours on Sunday, cameras from drones and on motorcycles followed the top athletes throughout the course. After the 1-mile swim, the athletes transitioned to their road bikes for 2 loops throughout the high peaks. The 100-mile course took riders from Lake Placid down into Keene and up through Ausable Forks and Jay. They then rode west to Wilmington and back to Lake Placid to do it all over again.
I'll say it again. It's such a beautiful course here, such a beautiful part of the world. And Lake Placid showing off today what could have been a really rough go of it between wildfires and rain and temperatures and wind. Has certainly
in the days leading up to Ironman, smoke from Canadian wildfires had made its way into the Adirondacks. But on Sunday, the winds died down and the skies cleared up. Ironman is a huge annual event for the village of Lake Placid. It brings in roughly $16 million to the local economy. That's according to the Regional Office of Sustainable Tourism. This year's race was the 27th annual event for the region.
It's been going since 1999, and this one is firming up to be another absolute classic.
On the men's side, a Belgian athlete took the lead early on in the race. For much of the biking portion and the entire marathon, Martin Van Riel led the group of nearly 60 pro athletes in the men's division before running across the finish line.
Martin Van Riel wins in Lake Placid and lays down a marker for the Pro Series.
Last year, an American man had set a new course record in Lake Placid. Van Riel smashed that record on Sunday.
7:41.57, a new record by 8 minutes and change. And Martin Van Riel, well, he's the real deal, like you said. Incredible.
Last year's champion finished in second place, followed by another American man in third. On the women's side, the battle for first was between Marta Sanchez from Spain and Canadian Paula Finley. Finley had never raced a full Ironman before, but had won 14 shorter triathlons during her pro career. She pulled away during the marathon to clinch a win at her Ironman debut.
Paula Finley finally makes the step up to full distance racing, punches her ticket to Kona, and wins in a tick over 8:47.
Sanchez crossed the finish line just a few minutes after her, and an American woman took home third. Beyond the nearly 90 professional athletes who raced on Sunday, thousands more competed in the Ironman, from teenagers to men and women in their 70s. Emily Russell, North Country Public Radio.
A paper company based in Glens Falls is transitioning away from making its own pulp. Finch Paper announced the major change last week. The company has been around for more than 160 years. In a press release, Finch said the changes in market mean that buying pulp from other sources is now cheaper than producing it on site in Glens Falls. That will mean far less business for independent loggers throughout the Northeast that have been selling to Finch. According to the Glens Falls Chronicle, the company said all hourly employees at the pulp mill and wood yard would be offered other jobs at Finch. The spokesperson from the company told the Chronicle that salaried workers affected by the change will, quote, be considered for open positions. Finch Paper employs more than 600 people in the Glens Falls area. The city of Watertown has appointed its first female police chief. Kristen Lyon has worked for Watertown's police department for more than 21 years. She served as a detective, a patrol sergeant, and most recently, a police captain. The city announced Lyon's appointment last Friday. She'll take over the top job from Charles Donoghue, who's retiring after more than 3 decades with the department. Watertown's police department has been around for more than 170 years and has never had a female police chief until now. Lyon officially begins her leadership role next Friday, July 31st. And Fort Ticonderoga says it's having the strongest season in its 117-year history. Over the 4th of July weekend, more than 3,000 people visited the fort, which is up by more than 70% for the same weekend last year. The historic site on Lake Champlain has added special events throughout the year to mark the nation's 250th birthday. Next Tuesday, Fort Ticonderoga will host a series of events, including musket and cannon demonstrations and a live reading of the Declaration of Independence. Then in late October, the fort will host a reenactment of one of the Continental Army's victories in 1776. This is NCPR. You're listening to Northern Light here on North Country Public Radio. It's almost 8:19. Good morning. I'm Catherine Wheeler. In just a minute, we'll hear from astronomer Aileen O'Donoghue to talk about the evening skies above us. And after that, Bird Note is coming up at 8:42. But first, we'll take a look at the weather. It's going to be rainy today, especially this afternoon when there are possible thunderstorms across the Tug Hill Plateau and St. Lawrence Valley that could continue into tonight as well. Highs in the mid-70s to low 80s throughout our region today. And tonight that rain will stick around with lows dropping into the mid to upper 50s. Tomorrow, more rain, except it should clear up in the Champlain Valley where it should be sunny. Highs tomorrow in the upper 60s to low 70s. The rain should clear up overnight, giving way to sunny skies for the rest of the week. Tonight's sunset in South Colton is at 8:37, and the moon is a first quarter moon. At last check, it's 69 in Potsdam, 74 in Clayton, 70 in Malone, 68 in Essex, 67 in Inlet, 64 in Lake Placid, 63 in North Hudson, 61 in Indian Lake, and 69 in Ticonderoga. Well, we're still getting plenty of daylight throughout our days, but what's going on up there when the sun goes down? Here to guide us through it all is astronomer Aileen O'Donoghue. She's with St. Lawrence University in Canton and the Adirondack Sky Center and Observatory in Tupper Lake. Good morning, Aileen.
Good morning, Catherine. How you doing?
I'm doing well now.
Good.
Before we turn our attention to space, I actually wanted to start our conversation with time.
Time. Yeah, we still got more than 15 hours of daylight today. And so the lovers of the light are just basking in this.
I am doing a lot of basking. But earlier this month, the U.S. House of Representatives voted to make daylight saving time permanent.
Yes.
So what does that mean, for us?
What it means for us is that instead of shifting the darkness, and most people are more concerned about the dark than the light, or shifting the light, instead of shifting it to the evening in the summer and then back to the morning in the light to the evening in the summer and morning in the winter, we're going to keep it in the evening. And I fear that most Americans, particularly in our urban culture, not just Americans, British Columbia has made the same decision, think that because we change the clocks, we get more darkness, not realizing that we have the same amount of darkness no matter what we do with the clocks. And when we were an agrarian culture, everybody knew how much the daylight changes. And here, the length of the day changes by 6 hours and 45 minutes between summer and winter. So where do we want the light? Where do we want the dark? And so they've chosen to keep the light in the evening. And what's going to disappoint people, the same way it did in 1974 when I was in high school and we tried this experiment before, perhaps no one in the Congress is old enough to remember 1974. But it failed spectacularly because parents realized that, my God, it's dark until 8:30. I mean, the sun doesn't rise until 8:30.
Yeah.
It's really dark in the morning. And even in the South, they hated staying on daylight saving time. So I'm interested to see how this experiment works now. In the more urban environments, I'm not sure it's going to make a difference.
So in that case, if we have sunrise later, would that mean more than just a few weeks to months like we experience in the winter right now of when it's dark when we get up and go to bed?
Well,
when we get up?
Right now, we're only in standard time for 4 months. And so that means those 4 months now, it's going to be that much, an hour darker in the morning. And so that's you're really going to notice. Think of the darkness of December and January, and it's going to be even darker in the morning. And so that's when you're going to notice it. The evenings, we won't have those luscious, the ones that I love, those luscious early dark evenings in November. It'll be dark mornings. So those of you who don't like getting up in the dark, not only will you get up in the dark, you'll go to work in the dark, and it won't be till your first break that the sun comes up. So that's what people will notice.
Do you find any benefit with having more daylight in the evening?
Well, I think I like it because I like the sunrise later in the summer. And so that's what shifting to daylight time does. For a lot of people, it is a benefit because you get home from work and you have an extra hour of daylight. If we didn't shift to daylight time, the sun would be up at 4:15 in the summer. And most people would be annoyed at that, and they would get blackout curtains. And so we will avoid that. It's not the sun won't rise till 5:15 in the summer, but in the winter, it's going to be very different. So I'll be curious what it's like.
Yeah. And to know, this hasn't been passed by Congress yet. This was just the House of Representatives passing.
Well, I think the Senate passed it a couple of years ago. So, and yes, apparently everybody in the Senate is younger than me.
Well, all right. I think we're going to turn to our night skies now. So I think Venus and Leo are out among.
Yeah, Leo is just so fleeting. So Leo is in the western skies after sunset. Venus is like under Leo's belly. And Venus is going to be hanging out for the rest of the summer. It's headed toward the horizon slowly, and we'll lose it in mid-October. But it's going to be lovely until then in the evening sky. The summer triangle is rising in the east. But what's really nice right now, this time of year, this is the best time to see toward the center of the Milky Way. It's in the direction of Scorpius and Sagittarius. And about 10 o'clock at night right now, when it's getting earlier and earlier, these two big, brilliant constellations are up in the south at about 10 p.m. If you have a low southern horizon, it's just glorious. Get out your chaise lounge and your binoculars. This is such a glittery part of the sky. And you're looking toward the center of the Milky Way, and 27,000 light years away from you is a 4 million solar mass black hole that we got images of from the Event Horizon telescope. And so it's an amazing part of the Milky Way. And so it's just toward the center of the Milky Way. Of course, the Milky Way is a frisbee of stars. And so Sagittarius and Scorpius are on the way to the middle. And so it's a dense region of stars, star clusters, nebulae, clouds, glowing clouds of dust and gas, star formation regions that are just glittery. There are these star clusters. It's a beautiful part of the sky.
Yeah, that's something exciting to look forward to.
It is. And in the evenings, of course, you got to be slathered with bug dope, but it's really pretty to just lie out there and admire that southern sky this time of year. And then by 10 p.m., the Milky Way, it arcs straight up off the southern horizon and goes to the northern horizon. So looking straight up, you see the Milky Way galaxy with Cygnus the Swan, which is a beautiful constellation. And the Swan is winging his way south along the Milky Way. And it's just a very beautiful part of the sky. So that's a savoring thing about July.
Well, and there are some extra special things happening next month, too, right? The Perseid meteors are coming in early August?
Yes, and this year it's great. We're at the first quarter now. And so the full moon is on July 29th, and then the new moon is actually on August 12th, which is typically the middle of the Perseid meteor shower. And these are the remnants. I can't remember what comet, but a comet comes through, and because the ices on the surface of the comet are sublimating, turning from ice to gas, it blows all this dirt and gunk off the comet's surface, leaves it along the orbit of the comet, and then when Earth passes through that orbit, we get all this gunk falling into our atmosphere. And most of these meteors, I mean, they're the size of the tip of your little finger. They're tiny, but they're these streaks of light as they burn up in our atmosphere. And so we're going to have a dark of the moon for the Perseid meteor shower. It's going to be terrific. And so any night you're out, you don't have to just go out on August 12th. Starting now, we're starting to see a slight increase in the number of meteors anytime you're out and you see the dark sky. Keep alert for these meteors, and particularly closer to the 12th.
Well, and when we're talking about seeing these, like, how many would you expect to see? I guess there's no number we can firmly set. But
maybe a couple every 5 minutes. I mean, it's not like you're just going to be dazzled by, hundreds of these things. It's that you can see a few. And if you're out there for a half an hour, you'll see 2 or 3 bright ones. It's not, don't expect to be super dazzled.
But still very exciting. Good viewing.
It is. I mean, because it makes the sky seem alive. You can actually see the dynamism of our world and our universe. And most of the time, it looks pretty static out there.
Well, and there's a total solar eclipse, right, as well?
But if you're not in northern Spain, and it peaks, the total eclipse of the sun is actually on August 12th. And it's crossing down through Iceland and across northern Spain. So it's kind of a glancing blow of the sun's shadow. But it's less than 2 minutes long. So if you happen to live in northern Spain, good for you, enjoy it. But there are longer duration eclipses coming up in 27 and 28.
Okay.
So don't rush off. I mean, there's many good reasons to visit Spain. That this solar eclipse is not really worth it.
Just good to know it's happening out there.
That's right. That's right.
And just quickly, before we have to go, I want to check in with our morning skies. Saturn is pretty high. And
Saturn and Mars are high. Mars is near the bright red star Aldebaran. Saturn is in Pisces, and there's no bright things other than Saturn. So it's pretty obvious where Saturn is. Of course, sunrise is still very early, but Saturn is going to be moving into the evening sky in the winter, and so that's coming. Jupiter, we're on the far side of the cosmic racetrack, and so we're leaving Jupiter behind. It's going to pass behind the sun on July 29, and then it'll show up in the morning sky and then creep back into the evening sky. So, and Mercury is popping up, bing, visible in early August in the morning sky, but it's like watching a ping pong ball. It ding, ding, ding. It really zips around.
Gorgeous. Never a dull moment up there.
No, it's a dance.
We'll have to leave it there. Astronomer Aileen O'Donoghue is with the St. Lawrence University in Canton and the Adirondack Sky Center and Observatory in Tupper Lake. This is NCPR.